Forget WWE. It's all about WWNUFC. That's right, Newcastle have got two new strikers in town, Woltemade and Wissa. And whilst they might be good individually, could it be the striking duo that gives Eddie Howe a new tactical change? It's all coming up, Newcastle fans, so do us a favour and make sure you stick around. Welcome back to Black and White Banter, ladies and gentlemen. And that's right, we can all breathe a big old sigh of relief because the transfer window is done. And when I say I collapsed to my knees with happiness over a glass of red wine, well, that's exactly what I did. It's done, it's dusted, the players are in, the players are out, and the Alexander Isak saga, most importantly, is finally over. And whilst that might have cast a shadow on the whole transfer window from external noise to internal noise for every single one of us, it doesn't hide away or cover the fact that we actually did some pretty good business. But most importantly, as that sale went through, our strikers, we ended up getting 2 out and 2 in. But before we get into the lovely 2 bits of business gracing Newcastle's goal-scoring presence at St James's Park, let's get the admin out of the way. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could whack that subscribe if you're new around here, that would be amazing. But most importantly, if you're watching this, just give us one of these. It just means this video might get viewed by a couple more Newcastle fans who might find some of the information I'm putting out half useful. Imagine that. So do that now and get Black and White Banter across all social media. Lots of different content on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and even Twitter. You might even see me on Sky Sports these days as well. I know, that's what I thought when they contacted me. Nick Woltemade, the big money sign and the record transfer for Newcastle that once again caught every single journalist, fan, in the know, Twitter user, Twitter gobshite by surprise. And wow, I don't think any of us expected it. And to be totally honest with you, after doing my studying, doing a video on it already, a YouTube short and a TikTok, he's a bit of a unique commodity, is Nick Woltemade. 6'6", so he's a tall presence, but strangely very, very good with his feet. Not as good in the air as you might think based off his stats, and anyone who watched the Euros for the under-21s will definitely know who he is because he picked up the golden boot with 6 goals in 5 matches. So not a bad little summer, and it probably stuck a bit of money on a price tag of a man who Stuttgart picked up for 0. As we all clammed onto YouTube clips and reels and Instagram and TikTok reels to see more glimpses of this man, for any of us who don't watch the Bundesliga very much, the more digging I did, the more I found very fascinating about this player is how deep he likes to drop. He can be found very, very deep in his own box, and I'm going to share his box proximity on the screen now from last season, and you can notice he is standing alone, literally, in his own half, and it's very, very strange, very, very often, very old school Premier League style. He will have his back to goal, he will be looking to drag people in, and he can even be found very late trying to then burst in the box to support the attack whilst he's brought other people in, linking up with them in the process. It's a unique thing in football now for a striker to be so deep, to be back to goal, but enjoying every moment, and also liking a bit of the argy-bargy in the process. But the most unique thing about him is his dribbling ability. A 6'6" man does not normally come with the reputation of carrying a football past 1, 2, 3 people and setting people up, and his assist record on paper might not be great if you look last season, but that's quite unfair on the player because he was playing in the Stuttgart team that missed a fair few in the process from a lot of hard work from him. He likes the ball at his feet and he isn't scared to dribble around people. Unusual for a big man. Now, flashback to deadline day. God, and it was a hectic one in the Premier League. I think the Premier League ended up topping £3 billion, which is a worrying statement in itself and a different topic for a different day. But when Alexander Isak's sale was confirmed, it had a feeling of inevitability about it for most Newcastle fans. Maybe I stand alone on that, but I'm guessing I don't. But my biggest worry and my first thought, as I've said from the start, was the better of the football club and is there a replacement coming in? And I was panicking that Brentford were not going to back down on a ridiculous fee for Yoane Wissa, who we have chased now ever since I think we made a £25 million bid, which was a bit of a mockery, even by negotiation standards. But he was confirmed, he was done, Alexander Isak out, Yoane Wissa in, and we suddenly had 2 strikers. Now, do I like Yoane Wissa? Yes, but do I categorically think that Newcastle have overpaid for Yoane Wissa? 100%. Similarly to that, though, did Newcastle have a choice? No, they did not. We chased him all summer. I think our opening bid was £25 million. Bit of an insult. And as we look at it now, £55 million for a 29-year-old as he's just turned. 1 year left on his Brentford contract and about to go to the African Cup of Nations in December for Congo, who, by the way, finished 3rd in the last tournament. I really hope that doesn't happen again, selfishly. Sorry, Wissa. It is a lot of money. It's a hell of a lot of money, but it wasn't one for trying. Could you argue Newcastle's negotiation and their transfer business in terms of who they went after was wrong in that sense? Maybe. Sesko, Delap, Pedro, the list went on very early in the window. But for me, he was always the Callum Wilson replacement, and it's turned out to be a more expensive one than the club wanted. But I like him. I like him. He's Premier League proven. He knows where the goal is. He got the same amount of goals, non-penalty, as Alexander Isak, who cost a certain £130 million a couple of days ago, and he likes to carry the ball. It's a good bit of business for Newcastle, and he can hit the ground running straight away, and it takes the pressure off Nick Woltemade's shoulders, who isn't going to be expected now to play Wednesday, Saturday this busy season. But the topic of this video is Woltemade. Great assets. Can hold the ball up, can dribble the football, can bring other people in and knows where the goal is. Yoane Wissa, the smaller one of the two, pacey, can carry the ball, likes to be slipped in and can certainly finish just the same. Could this be the new Hugo Ekitike Alexander Isak combination that we joked and slavered over earlier in the summer? It certainly could. Now, I know what you might be all thinking. Oh, Woltemade holds it up, plays in Yoane Wissa, goal. Wow, little and large, like a Peter Crouch and Jermaine Defoe. That's pretty basic. That's a pretty easy conclusion to come to. Well, it is. Look, what Woltemade doesn't have in pace, in ball carrying, Wissa does have. What Wissa doesn't have in ball hold up, aggression and dribbling ability, Woltemade does have. This could be a lovely combination that could work very, very well when Eddie Howe is trying to mix up his formation depending on opposition in all of the competitions for an overload to teams' defences. 2 up top. Doesn't have to be rigid. It can be very flexible in game. And now let's look a little bit closer at some of the assets of the players, why this could definitely be that winning combo. Well, unless Eddie Howe plans to completely transform what Woltemade has been good at Stuttgart, you would expect the player to continue dropping deep, picking up the football and looking for players to play in behind him. Insert Anthony Gordon, Anthony Elanga, Jacob Murphy, Harvey Barnes and Yoane Wissa here. So would you believe me if I said Yoane Wissa last season for Brentford was one of the highest ball carriers of any Premier League striker? Only 2 carried the ball more, and only 1, a certain Erling Haaland, scored more from those carries than Yoane Wissa. Are you seeing where I'm going with this? The link up between these two could be wonderful because Mr. Nick Woltemade could do all of the hard work for Wissa to do the rest. And bringing into the equation those players I've just mentioned, Anthony Gordon in his favourite position on the left side. Remember all of the good things he did for Newcastle 2 seasons ago when he was absolutely flying. We're still hoping once he moves away from that striking position we know he doesn't like, to get back to that form. Players running in behind. Anthony Elanga against Aston Villa, against Liverpool. Look, Leeds, he didn't have the best cameo, I admit that, but we know what he's good at. He's one of the fastest players in the league, and if there is one player in a Newcastle shirt who wants the ball being played in behind, it is him. Yoane Wissa certainly has the capabilities to keep up with him and Gordon darting down each wing. And I'm going to share some goals on the screen of Yoane Wissa that have built the reputation for him in the Premier League that he did for Brentford, becoming their all-time scorer in the league. Balls in behind, balls from wide areas. Well, I'm telling you, Yoane, in this Newcastle team, if there's one thing we've learned early in the season, that it's that we're crying out for, but also there is pace to burn to support exactly the player he is. You bring a Nick Woltemade into that who wants to drop deep. hold the ball up with his back to goal, to then bring in the Brunos, the Tonalis, to ping the balls wide to the Elangas and the Gordons. And it's a very, very exciting potential link-up here that we could be talking about. And I'm going to break it down old school to make this a bit clearer on what this could look like. I'm going to take you back to a certain Shearer and Bellamy combo all the way back in the early 2000s. A great case of little and large, strong and fast between the two of them. And how many times did we see Shearer link up with Bellamy? This isn't what I'm saying here because Woltemade likes to drop deep. But then if we bring a Kieran Dyer in, how many times did we see Shearer lay off the likes of Dyer on the right-hand side to then set up Craig Bellamy? It's a very similar link-up, but I would say an upgraded version with the wingers that we have at our disposal in this team. But there's a giant elephant in the room screaming at me, and before any of you say it, somebody out there watching this video is going to say, but Matthew, 4-4-2 is old school. It's so old school, it's Mike Bassett old school.
4-4-fucking-2.
Well, yes, you might be right. In the modern game, I think Pep Guardiola's toes might curl and the likes at the thought of a 4-4-2 system. But I look a little bit closer at the teams out there that make this work. It's always adaptable. It's always flexible. You can set up in a defensive 4-4-2 system without a doubt. And a certain Atletico Madrid and a certain Diego Simeone, who Eddie Howe actually went to study when he was unemployed, and we played recently in a friendly, he's made this work considerably with the likes of Alvarez and the likes of Griezmann. Also, looking a little bit closer, Unai Emery, one of Newcastle's rivals at Aston Villa in recent years in the Premier League, has made a system in his time at Villarreal and at Aston Villa out of adapting and changing a flexible formation into a 4-4-2, where even inverted midfielders turn into a forward by going into central high areas. It is a very adaptable system. And I look at Eddie Howe and I look at some of the teams that have come up against our 4-3-3, and depending how rigid they are defensively, we've struggled. We've struggled to create. We've looked for someone against that low block. Woltemade has that in his locker in dribbling ability alone, but to have two forwards with some of the pace that we have on the left side and the right-hand side could be that 4-4-2 system. Once Woltemade finds his feet, that could work lovely for Newcastle. Woltemade played in a 4-4-2 system at Stuttgart predominantly, and I'll share that one on the screen. Yoane Wissa played in a 4-2-3-1 system at Brentford predominantly, with people behind him. Well, this is what a 4-4-2 system for Newcastle could look like with these two players both on the field. And I would argue in both cases of the two players playing for their previous clubs that this one is an upgraded version, this one is a more exciting version, and this is the one that would benefit both players if they are used correctly. Look, Nick Woltemade needs time. That's why Yoane Wissa was an important signing. He needs time to bed in. He's still learning football in general, but he's got to learn the Premier League. He's a bit of a unique unknown in that sense, and let's hope he lives up to that price tag. Yoane Wissa can be thrown straight in. He just needs to learn his teammates, but he knows what the back of a Premier League goal looks like. I think these two could work. I think these two don't have to be individuals in this Newcastle team. Newcastle fans, let us know your thoughts down below. Are you happy with this partnership? I don't care what you think about Alexander Isak being sold at this stage, but I'm curious what you think about these two, and if you agree that these could be an exciting duo on the pitch at the same time. Get in the comments and let me know. If you've stuck around this long, whack that subscribe button, but most importantly, give me a thumbs up and get Black White Banter across all socials. The transfer window is done. We can all take a breath and look to Wolves in about 10 days' time. Fingers crossed, WWNUFC could be a new look for Eddie Howe this season. However, lads!